Well, hello guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to the Skymaster F-18 build. We are very close to finishing this aircraft. This is going to be the final video of this aircraft. We got lots to do, lots of final little adjustments to make on this airplane, but we're there. So stay tuned and we'll get into the last final things on the F-18. All right, so just to give you guys a bit of a list here of what we have left to do. Number one, fill the fuel system, check the fuel system, test run the engines. That's going to be the first thing we probably do. Number two, we've got to finish getting the battery leads brought up front. We may wait until we CFG the aircraft. We've got to CFG the aircraft, that's number three. We've got to get the cockpit and the canopy and all that stuff timed and installed. And last thing we have to do is, I'm just going to confirm with the owner, build a screen back here that I've kind of talked about a little bit in previous videos. I believe I've mentioned it. So that's what's slated for this video. There's a lot of things to cover. Some of it I'm going to keep very simple because it's stuff that I've covered in so many other videos like CFG, things like that. We're going to keep it as simple as possible. So step number one, let's run these turbines. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to fill the fuel system up. So as I've talked about previously and shown you guys, there's one fill line for the fuel system, which is right here, comes back to the UATs, splits in a Y, and fills both of them at the same time. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to fill this fuel system up until the saddle tanks are basically full, and then we're going to drain it out and put some fuel just in the main tank for our test runs because we don't need that much fuel. But that is the first thing we're doing. All right, so we're outside. F-18 is ready to go. We've got all of our safety equipment close by, and we've filled up the fuel tank, so we're going to run these engines and see how they work. We're probably going to do the restart test as well too. We'll do each one at a time and then make sure everything's good. All right, time to make some noise. Well, that was fun. They run perfect. They got lots of power. We did the restart test on both of them as well too. The timing on them were about 4.2 seconds for the acceleration, which is good. Nice even number for it. And happy. The engines are running great. Now it's time to move on to the next steps. All right, so as we get prepared to do the CFG on this aircraft, we've got to get all the wiring complete. So before I bolt the canopy portion on here, I want to make sure that all my wiring's done. So we got a bunch of power wire here, and we need to extend the turbine leads all the way forward, and they're going to plug into the turbine batteries right there. So next thing to do on the 18, extend those leads forward. All right, so we've got our power leads run forward for the turbines. Next thing to do is power leads from the receiver or power box all the way forward as well too. So again, we got a bunch more power wire to run forward. It is amazing, almost mind-blowing how much power wire also gets eaten up in an aircraft like this. Crazy. Like my spools that I buy, they are, I think they're 100 feet of power wire, and it's almost empty. Crazy. So what we're going to do here is we're going to use different battery connectors for every battery system. And we want to do that to make sure that we don't have any screw-ups when we plug this thing in together. So our turbine batteries are going to be the XT60 connectors. For our receivers, we'll use a different connector, you know, and so on and so forth, just to make sure when this plane's getting fired up, when the batteries are getting charged, all that kind of stuff, it's very simple and straightforward, and we don't have any mishaps, because I've seen that happen before, and you want to make it as simple as possible. That's one of the reasons why when I built my Diamond over there, all the batteries are in the nose. I kind of implemented that system where essentially every single system of the aircraft has a different battery connector, because I've actually done it myself. On my Ultra Flash, I had all MPX connectors on everything, and I accidentally plugged the turbine battery, which is a 3-cell LiPo, into the receiver system, and poof, popped a bunch of things right away. So that's kind of where I learned to implement that thing. All right, so we added an airspeed sensor on the nose here. The owner, John, wanted one of these installed. So what we did was we just made 2 wood mounts here and got that mounted. This high sol's still not quite fully cured, so we're just waiting for this, and then we'll clean this up and get it painted. We're just gonna run the tubes inside the fuselage right there, and that'll be a great addition to this aircraft. So we're just running the last power leads forward, and I'm just doing up our leads that plug into the power box. So this little silver box here I got from Europe. I can't remember the fellow that I got it from, but anyways, what you do is you bolt the MPX ends in here, and you inject hot glue into this shell, and it basically makes a full encasement around the power leads there that go into the MPX connector. So really slick setup. So what I've done is obviously bolted that in. There's no glue in there right now, but I'll show you what this looks like in a second. So it definitely wasn't a cheap tool. I think it ended up being about $100 by the time it got here. But so it's got 2 little vent holes right on the side. And all we do in this case is put our hot glue gun on there and fill it up until it comes out the little vents on the side. And now we just let this hot glue set up for about a minute, and then we unbolt it, and I'll show you what it looks like. All right, so it's been about a minute or 2 here, so we'll just unbolt this guy. And there we go. So that's what it ends up looking like. And there we go. So all you gotta do is just take an X-Acto knife or your fingers and just pop those guys off. And then now you've got a nice solid protected end that you can also pull this plug out nice and easy. So, and then of course, if you had black hot glue, you could use black as well too. All right, well, this beautiful F-18 is on her legs for the first time. That's pretty awesome. All right, so first time on her own legs, and we are getting ready to do the C of G, center of gravity on this plane. So we do have all the measurements all ready for this. I did double check my measurements and we are good to go. Now, we're gonna do this without the ordnance on, but generally on a plane like this, the C of G is right over the ordnance package. So you'll find that when you add the ordnance on, at least on an F-18, there's like zero change to the aircraft. So that's fine. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get the scales installed, the Zykoy balance machine, and we're gonna get all the other parts put on. So the UATs, or the bubble traps, are already full of fuel. We're gonna put the rear hatch on, we're gonna put the cockpit in, the canopy on. The big reason to do this at this point is I want to find out how much battery weight we have to play with. So the only batteries that we have fixed right now or already picked out are the turbine batteries for the SWE wind turbines. So for those guys, we use the 3300 milliamp 3-cell batteries, and they are awesome. So those are our turbine batteries. But we do need to come up with 4 more batteries. So 2 for the Powerbox Royal, for the receiver setup essentially. So 1 for the lighting setup and 1 for the smoke pump and compressor. So those both use a 3-cell LiPo as well too. So I want to have all the batteries in the front of the plane. A plane like this, it doesn't make any sense to bury a battery somewhere else in the plane because you have very limited access once that cockpit's in. So next step, get this plane on the C of G machine, the Zykoy C of G machine, and see where we're at. All right, so we've got the aircraft all set up here. That tube of epoxy back there is just to simulate the weight of adding the screen system, which we have to build at the end here. Now, when I put that tube on and off, really makes very little difference because it's so close to the C of G, and so I just used that tube so we have some sort of weight back there to simulate it. Now we've got the cockpits, pilot's kind of jammed in there. I don't know what's wrong with his legs. And then what we've done is we've just added weight to the nose here on both sides, so strips of weight. So with the nose cone on, we are really stinking close. So 186 C of G in front of the main landing gear, which is, by all the numbers, really, really good. So what we're going to do is, let's just look at the weight here. So that's our total weight. We're about 65.5 pounds dry, and that's what we're looking at. So, and then if we go back to the C of G, we're just slightly nose heavy. So now what we know is that we have that much battery room to play with for those 4 batteries that we need. So now we need to make that work. And ideally, what I'll do is I'm going to weigh all these strips, and I want to get our battery set up so I have ideally all of the battery weight in the nose plus maybe 1 or 2 strips of weight added there, so you've got a little bit of control to bring that C of G back if needed. All right, now if we take all that weight and put it on the scale, we've got 646 grams of playroom here, which should be tons of room. Now if we take 2 2200 milliamp batteries here as an example, that's 270 grams. So we do have a decent amount of playroom there to make this work. So if we were to go with battery sizes like that for the receiver, and then a 3-cell for the other stuff, and a 2-cell for the lights, I think we would be okay. So we're going to see what kind of battery combinations we can come up with, but that is awesome. All right guys, so working on the screen system now, that's kind of one of the last big steps here. And this is basically, I've taken my cardboard, made a template. This is actually two pieces, you can see the joint right there. And this is just gonna be the outline or the outside of the screens. We're gonna have a nice thin layer of ply. And the rest is just gonna be a solid piece of screen. So these will be removable quite easily, and this is just to block as much grass as possible when operating off of a grass runway. But of course, because this entire area is a screen system, it's gonna let tons of air through. All right, so we've done a couple things for mounting these screen plates. First one is make a balsa triangle in the bottom here. This follows the angle of the plates once they're installed. So that's been high-soled in place. Have also put some thin CA on it just to soak into the balsa and make it a little bit more durable. So that's curing. And then we also put these little slices on the side here that the plates will sit against. So it's gonna be a pretty simple installation. The screens are obviously in two pieces as I've talked about. They're gonna slide in place like that. And then they basically, once they're bolted together, they're gonna work great. So I've left a little bit of a gap there because we're gonna put the screen on the underside of these plates. So you can see there's a bit of room there for screen and glue to all work. So it should be a nice, simple, easy solution to keep most of the grass out of the engines. Okay guys, so what I did was I painted the screen covers, the front side anyways, or the visible side, cut out the piece of screen, and I just tacked this in with medium CA and used kicker, so now it's nice and positioned where we want it to be. And then I took some 9462 high sol, used a nozzle, and applied that all around the perimeter. And now what I'll do is use that as kind of my template. And I laid down some clear packing tape, and we're just going to lay this guy down like that. And we'll do the same thing with the other side, add some weight to it, and basically that's gonna push the screen into the wood, and we'll be all good there. We'll let that cure, and then basically tomorrow we'll be able to take these off and get them installed. All right guys, this is what we've been waiting for the air system. So this is a check valve, 4mm to 4mm Festo check valve. So air can flow one way, not the other way. So initially this compressor in here works really well. It's sealed nicely. We did that 8-hour test where we pumped it up and it held air great. But as that compressor breaks in, wears in, this check valve will probably be an important thing. So basically what we're doing is we're installing it here in this section right after the air trap here. So this is a 4mm to 3mm fitting, so we need to basically put it right in this section right there, and that's going to be basically the air system done. All right guys, so just getting ready to glue these battery holders in. So I made 2 battery holders out of thin birch ply, and you can see my black marks there. That's just marks of where the nose cone sits. So those are these guys right here. So these are where the 2 turbine batteries will slip into, and they will capture almost all of that, that LiPo battery. So next thing to do here is get these things glued in. We basically want them glued in so the battery's sitting about there, and with the other batteries kind of placed right here, we probably won't need to do any more fixing, but if we do, then we can put a strap across everything, but that should be plenty to hold those batteries in place. So we'll get some high sol mixed up and glue those battery holders in place. All right, so it's the next day and we've got our pockets that are all glued in place. So I put the nose cone back on, rerouted the wires just a little bit here, and so this is going to be how our wires are routed. So quite simple. Our turbine batteries just slip into the pockets. This one's a little bit tighter, which is nice, but and then we've got our turbine connectors here as well. So it's going to be fairly simple when we're all done this. We've got our turbine connectors, then we're going to have different battery connectors on all the other batteries so we can't mess it up, as I've talked about. So So next thing we're going to do is we're going to figure out the batteries and get all the connectors and stuff set up. All right, guys, so we picked up our last little batch of stuff here for the F-18. So we've got our Dean's connectors, and these are going on the leads coming from the power box. And we've got all of our batteries sorted. So basically we've got a 2200 milliamp 2-cell LiPo for the light system. We've got a 2200 milliamp 3-cell LiPo for the compressor and smoke pump. And then we've got a couple 4000 milliamp 2-cell LiPos, and those are for the receiver packs. And then of course our turbine batteries, the 3300 milliamps 3-cell LiPos are right there. So got all of our batteries sorted. We should be really close on weight here. I measured these all out, and looks like we're going to be good. So next thing to do here is get all the appropriate connectors installed. So as I mentioned, I want the connectors to be different, or at least not cause a problem when you put a connector on any battery connector, right? So our turbine batteries, we can only put these guys together. The receiver packs, we're going to only be able to put the Deans together. And what I might do, I might have to double up here some, but anyways, I'm going to make this basically as mindless as possible, so there's no issues when we connect those batteries in the future. All right, so our batteries are basically done. Let's pop the nose cone off here. It's pretty simple. Everything's keyholed on the nose cone, so it just slips over, locks into place. And we've got all of our batteries nicely laid out. So there's a Velcro strap that holds everything in place. Goes through the former work there, or the nose cone former work. We've put little notches in there so the Velcro strap's not going anywhere. So what we've done here is we have set this up so any wrong connections doesn't wreck anything. So we've got our two turbine connectors here, which are XT60 connectors. Those are the yellow ones. We've also got our other 3-cell LiPo here, which is a black XT60 connector. So in this case, if we were to take this battery, hook it up to a turbine, nothing bad's going to happen other than your capacity is going to be lower. So, but that is how we've done those batteries. Now we've gone with Dean's connectors on all the other batteries. So we've got our two receiver batteries, the 4000 milliamp 2-cell LiPos. Those are the white to red Dean's connectors there. And then we've got the 2200 milliamp 2-cell LiPo Dean's connector. And this, I just put some green tape around there so it's, again, green to green. But if we were to take this battery, connect it to there, doesn't do anything wrong other than we lose some capacity, right? So that is how we have organized all of this. Batteries are easy to take off for charging. So we undo the Velcro strap, batteries come off as little packs, and we've also got the batteries labeled here as well too. So this side's our 4000 milliamp 2-cell LiPo, and so on and so forth, and same thing under that side. So a little tip here, one of the things I do when I get my batteries is I just write on them the month and year, just so, you know, 4 or 5 years down the road, you can look at these batteries and say, oh, well, these things are 5 years old, I should probably get new batteries, or whatever your mentality is. That is our batteries. So just want to take a quick second and thank each and every one of you that has donated to the Shop Build Fund as your names scroll up the screen here. Thank you so much for the donations. Truly appreciate it. Our total right now it's crazy. I mean, I wish it was 10 times more, but it's already more than I thought it would ever bring in. So thank you guys for those donations. It's awesome. All right, so we have the screen system all installed. This worked out really well. The only thing that I think I'm going to add to this is just a cross member piece right here, but otherwise the screen completely stays in place by itself. I don't think we need to go any further than what we already have. So what I'm going to do is basically come up with a T system or a cross brace or something that just gets screwed into both to hold it in place. But really this can't go anywhere because it can't go this way, it can't go that way. The supports all keep it in place as well too. So that worked out, I think, pretty awesome. And it's a nice accurate fit here for them. And then you can see the backside worked out well too, laying it against that tape and adding some weight on there. So really, really cool system. I'm glad we were able to figure that out. All right, and there we are installed. I had a piece of carbon that I got set up here, and pretty simple. So when you want to remove this, you just undo 2 of the screws on the left-hand side, pops up, one comes out, the other comes out. This basically is removable in about 30 seconds and nice and solid. We could go one step further and put a screw through the side, but really not necessary. All right guys, so I'm just putting the aircraft together for probably the last time, and just going to do the final programming before we kind of get into the front end and everything. So I just want to show you a couple things here that's pretty common with these F-18 kits and Skymaster kits in general. So when you put these wings on, there was actually interference with this movable cover here. So that's built into the flaps. So when the flaps go down, that goes down with the flaps. But anyways, what happens here generally is during production these will get cracked. They're the same on the other side, and Skymaster just sends them out like this. It's not surprising, this is just normal stuff. And but they have put epoxy to fix the crack and everything. So what happens here is the epoxy actually comes out the side. And it was the same thing on this side. There was kind of a bubble of epoxy right there. So all I do is take my Dremel on this last time that I put the wings on and just sand this down just to make sure that there's no interference with the fuselage. So I just want to show you that, just so you're not alarmed if you buy this kit and you see some cracks and stuff like that somewhere, especially on an area like that. That's pretty normal. So we will touch up these cracks, and we'll touch up like little chips like this, the blue mark, just stuff like that is pretty normal. Anyway, so putting this wing on, and then we'll get into programming here. Programming basically is pretty much as per the manual. The center location for the elevators on the Hornet model or the F model, so you're 34 millimeters down from the bottom of the built up piece right there. So we are centered now with the elevators, or the rear surfaces. They're not really elevators because they're working as both. But yeah, so anyways, that's what we're doing, and then we're gonna get the programming done, and I'll show you guys kind of the final results. All right guys, so just getting the cockpit installed. We've got, I hope, all of the other stuff dealt with. I mounted the last satellite receiver just on this part of the plane right here, so we're basically ready to go with the cockpit. Now the cockpit is a bit of a bear to get in and out on this aircraft. You have to put the front one in first. The thing that makes this difficult now is you've got more stuff in this area. So previously you could kind of bend the cockpit around and get it out, but now you kind of have to get that cockpit in without folding it around. So I take this, this hood off. I separate this from the rear cockpit, and basically it's 3 pieces. So rear cockpit, hood, and front cockpit. So put the front cockpit in, the rear cockpit goes in. It's a real pain in the butt, but it does go in. Then I get this piece installed. Now what happens is there's basically 4 screws holding this whole thing together. So you get the rear portion all lined up. You do these 2 back screws up. And then the front one has 2 screw holes as well too. And so you get those lined up with the front screws and do up the front screws, and then you're good to go. Now front pilot, We're going to need to chop his legs off because we can't have those legs extending into this front portion of the aircraft because that's where the wheel comes up. So not a big deal, you'll never notice. And the rear pilot, I think we might have to chop some of his legs off because there's not enough room there, and we don't want to cut an opening in the cockpit and have his legs interfering with the landing gear. All right, so we're all back in here. I did switch these screws out to some nice small little angled head BVM ones just because they fit nicer, have a bit more aggressive thread, so did change those out. I am going to add 2 more screws on the back portion here. So this part of the cockpit just sits on top of a piece of support wood there, but I'm just going to drill a small hole here and a small hole there and just add 2 tiny little screws there just to add one more little support here because I just think it's a good idea and not a big deal. All right guys, just trying to show you all my little tips and tricks on the last stages of this F-18. So this is my favorite way to hold pilots in. Just take a bit of safety wire. There's usually something you can wrap this around. And in this case, there's a stock installed little screw there. So we've got 1 piece of safety wire on one side, 1 on the other side. And we'll just wrap this underneath his arms, his armpits. Just do a couple little loops in the middle and basically invisible, easy to remove the pilot and keeps him nice and firm, or her nice and firm. All right, so taking a step backwards here, we have to switch the outputs for the canopy lock and canopy actuator. The main gear cylinder goes in output A. And right now we've got this in output A, so we need to switch those around. So I need to take the cockpit out to get access to everything basically to make that, that switch. So once that's done, then we can flip those things around and get the canopy all programmed. So this is the stuff that just takes time. Some jets are very, very simple and straightforward, like the Huracan back in the distance there. Easy, simple sports jet to program. When you're dealing with something like the F-18, even having built many of these aircraft, you always kind of run into they're not even really gremlins, they're just equipment situations and equipment modifications and adjustments and things like that that need to get done. So just part of the way it works. I've actually been working on the programming for this plane now for about 9 hours, and it's just, you know, figuring stuff out, getting things sorted properly, and we're still working away on it. So I don't mind it, but yeah, it's just the way it goes. All right, and our canopy is all complete. Here's a shot of what it looks like. Canopy open. And canopy closed. There we go. So it's important when you're using not air, when you're using electronic stuff, this all needs to work in conjunction with each other because you've got, if you don't set it up properly, you've got one fighting the other. With air, it closes and then this air locks down and it can overpower the main cylinder there. With electronic stuff, you've got to have the canopy closing and the lock working at the same time. So it takes quite a bit of messing around with the timing, but canopy works. All right, guys, so we are done with the setup on the aircraft except one more part. So everything here is complete. As a final step, pull the little films off the screen and the buttons for the power box unit. I did this previously, but installed my lighter side of RC built by sticker. Congratulations, John. She's a beautiful aircraft. So last step here that we have to do is we're going to get the aircraft on the ground. We're going to balance out the flaps. We need to do that in the power box. And then we're going to do a final C of G check to make sure we are good. And then she's ready to crate. All right, guys, so I need to take the cockpit out one more time because we need to add more air to the strut. One of the important things with the final setup on these 18s is the nose can't be sagging too much, because then you've got a downward incidence on the wings. So the nose needs to have some air added to the system. The only access is through the top. So what I do on these canopies and cockpits and stuff is take the screw out that holds the mechanism arm to the canopy arm, and then we can just take something soft like a roll of paper towel, put it in between there. I've taken out my 6 screws for the cockpit. Forward one just slides forward, and I added some CA to this screw. Now, one thing I did on this cockpit is I added a little slot here on the side of the cockpit, and the reason for that is so it lines up with the former. Basically that little slot lines up with the former, and then we're able to pop this guy out. Now, it's definitely not an easy task, but it's possible. So it's not that bad. And there's my little slot here. So all I did was slide this guy as far forward as I could get it, and then just dremeled out that little slot previously. So the actual nipple is on the back of the leg. So it's definitely a bit of a pain in the butt to get to, but I don't think you'd be able to access it through the bottom here, because we're going to have to lift this tray up and get access to it like that. So anyways, I'm going to add some more air to the front leg cylinder, just so we can get this raised up and nice and level, and then we'll do the CFG check. All right, guys, so we've got the plane laid up on the ground here, and it is on our Zykoy CFG machine. So there's our final weight, 64.8 pounds, and CFG. So we are just slightly tail heavy, which is perfect. Hi, Nez. Nez is helping out with the center of gravity. So what we're going to do is we're just going to add a couple sticky weights to the nose. We're going to bring it a little bit in front of the CFG. So right now it is measured. This is based on the Zykoy measurements. So we're 183. We want to be at 185, but I'll bring it to 186, and that's going to be pretty much perfect. Okay, so right now our CFG is at 186, exactly where I wanted it to be. And you can see there, that's with 2 strips of weights, or a full strip of weight, half and half on each side. And that is good. So I'm going to stick those down, and our center of gravity is complete. So this is pretty much an ideal situation, guys. This is exactly what I'd like to do. So if we take all of this weight out, we are 1 millimeter behind the recommended CFG point. With this weight in, we're 1 millimeter in front of the CFG point. So, I mean, it's not a very huge adjustment. It'll be fine, probably good just the way it is. But it gives you a little bit of adjustment there with the CFG, and we've maximized the battery capacity as well too, which is awesome. So final thing to do here is we're going to balance out these flaps, which is done in the power box unit, because we've got one channel for both flaps. And so I'm going to get that done, and then we are done this plane. All right, guys, and that is the build of the Skymaster F-18 Hornet. She is officially done. Really awesome build. I think it turned out amazing. Definitely one of the best F-18s I have put together so far. And that's not coming from me, that's actually coming from the owner. So everything worked out really well. I'm very happy with this aircraft. Now, one of the common questions that everybody asks is, how long does it take to put one of these together? Now, this is probably one of the quickest ones I've put together. And I actually kept track of my hours as well too. So I've put in 84 hours to put this aircraft together. Now I've built multiple of these aircraft, so that helps out. One of the first one I put together probably took double that. And that doesn't include any of the crating time, obviously, because the aircraft's not crated. But so yeah, that was the build of this aircraft. Now we didn't do anything overly extravagant. We did, change the names on the aircraft, so that added a little bit of time as well too. But that's it. So aircraft's done. Next step for this aircraft is it's going to get crated up and shipped off to the owner down in the US. And that's it. So looking forward to seeing some pictures and video of the maiden flight for this aircraft. So if you have any questions, guys, about the aircraft here or anything else, or building aircraft or anything like that, either post it in the comments below. It's better to email me. That way you can ensure that I get the email. Anyways, ask away if you have any questions. Thanks guys for watching the build series. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below, and we'll see you in the next video.